Good morning. How are you? I just recorded. I was thinking in the kitchen as I was making my second cup of coffee, which I believe I forgot my actual cup. And I just made a video about people putting me in a box, and two stories came to mind that where I put people in a box or didn't understand who people were, and which was good in the one case because I never would have um gotten to know this person. I call him the most interesting man in the world. And I never would have gotten to know him if it weren't for the fact that I didn't know who he was, right? Because when I worked at the phone store, we had large accounts. We had like the CEO of Pepsi in the Midwest kind of people coming in, and I was helping them. And that man was super, super nice. And he was amazing, but I treated him with the reverence of somebody like that, not just a normal Joe. This was a guy who had corporate accounts and like 80 phones, and I helped the DA in our county and the state DA more than once. Okay. So when I say that I was in charge of helping people and the rest of the people didn't want to deal with that. And I was willing to. So this is key, right? So one day this guy walks in and I'm it's 2007, 2008, 2009. No, not 7. 8 to 10-ish. He's got holy jeans and a baggy sweatshirt on, and he just looks like a normal guy. And he's broken his phone, like a skater guy kind of guy. And I'm like, all right. Uh, so he says I've broken, my phone, or I'm having this issue with my BlackBerry. I'm like, cool. That tells you how long ago this was. The BlackBerry was still a thing, and it was the same issue everybody else had with those Blackberries. They were revolutionary but awful, and so I'm like, no problem. I can get you a new phone. It'll be there in 2 days because that's what we were doing at the time. And he goes, I can't wait. I don't have 2 days. Is there anything else you could do? I was like, honestly, no, because I don't have this phone in store anymore. And other than buying a phone outright, there's not much we can do. And he said, okay, go ahead and send that. And then I want to buy one outright. I'm like, you realize that's like $1,000, right? And he's like, okay, these are $1,000 phones. He's like, yeah, no problem. I'm like, okay. Like inside, that's what my face was doing. Outside, I'm like, all right, no problem. You got it? Cool. So I send the replacement, so we had a backup, which was really smart. And then I go and I grab the phone and I'm like, I need to figure out, I've never had to do this before. I need to figure out how to sell a phone outright to this person and activate it on their account. The activation part, yeah. But I was tech support. So, you know, how do we ring this up? He's not adding the line, he just wants to buy the phone outright. No problem. So we get through that process and I tell him the total, and he goes and he pulls out an American Express black card. For those of you who don't know, I don't know if that's still a thing. It's been years since I've had any interaction with people in that way. But the American Express black card, at least at that time, had a diamond on it and had absolutely no limit. And I knew what that was. And I remember him handing it to me, and I looked up at him and I kind of went, huh, who are you? I didn't say it outright, right? But in my head, I'm like, who are you? That you have enough money that someone would give you a black card, right? So what that taught me in that moment was never to judge a book by its cover. Similarly, years, same time frame, guy comes in, he needs help with his phone, no problem. So this guy becomes a pain in the stores behind because he was traveling all of the time, and going fishing and doing all of these things. And, smartphones were relatively new. He was not a super, um, he is an insanely smart man. I still talk to him occasionally. But he was not tech savvy at all. Or he was making up reasons to come and talk to me, which I'm pretty sure some of that was that. But anyway, so we get to talk one day, and I'm like, what? Who are you? And he's like, well, I used to be in the NSA. I worked for the NSA during Vietnam. What? Yeah. And that's all I knew about him. I didn't know what he had done after that. But then he sent me a document one time and he goes, I want you to take a look at this and just tell me, is there anything I need to add or anything that you would do differently? And I was like, okay, no problem. Turns out he was the president of a bank, a big bank, overseas for years. And all I knew about him was he sailed the south of France for a couple of years and went to AA meetings with Ringo Starr. Worked for the NSA during the Vietnam War. And yeah. And it turns out he was a really big deal. And he dressed like a normal Joe. He is just hilarious to talk to and very down to earth and extremely progressive. And he's just a great man. But I wouldn't have been able to get to the level I got with him because I would have been intimidated had I known who he was. So when we put people in a box, sometimes we rob ourselves of getting to know someone or rob ourselves of a really good sidekick. And when we put someone in a box, we could completely, and it could be good, right? My dad never dressed the way he could have. We were not exceptionally, we were never, it turned out, realizing as an adult, we were never poor. But we had some lean years where things were a little bit tougher than they needed to be. And once my dad recovered from that, he never ever, very rarely, he would like upgrade just a little bit, but he never ever really spent his money the way he could have. Does that make sense? I hope so. And I think I learned something from that, some good, some bad from that. And I think that there is a way, we'll wrap this up with budgeting for your business. I think that having rainy day funds for your business are fucking crucial. If you have a business and your debt to income ratio, debt is not a bad thing. It is how you use the debt. It is staying in debt that is bad. That is not good. However, maintaining a certain amount of debt and paying it off consistently and with fervor really does help your credit, whether that be business credit or personal credit, and the two are the same to some degree when you're first starting out. So understanding how that works, and I believe firmly that the reason that many businesses go out of business really early is that they do not plan for rainy days. They don't. and they do not maintain a certain level of savings. And there is a point where all of the money that you're making needs to go back into business. But there also comes a point where you need to be putting aside a little bit of cash, because in business, there are times when you are up and there are times when you are not. And planning for the when you're not is essential. So, if you're interested in what that looks like and how to do that, this is something we are going to cover pretty early on in the group program that I'm pulling together. Uh, Mastermind, I haven't figured out a name for it yet. It may be called Peonies and Processes or Peonies and Profits. I'm not sure, but Peonies, Processes, and Profits. I gotta write that down. Peonies, Processes, and Profits. I love peonies. They're my favorite flower. That said, the group program is designed to help you. We will have one meeting a month where you are learning something, you are getting in the hot seat, you're asking questions, we're having breakout rooms where you network and get to know people or learn something. We are then also going to have that'll be 1 to 2 hours once a month, and then another 1 to 2 hours once a month for implementation. And that is to either implement the thing that you learned at the beginning of the month or work on your CEO time, because so many businesses that I know do not have their foundation set. They are not doing the CEO work that is required of them, the operations work that is required of them, or they're getting so in the weeds with that they're not out making sales. And so the idea of this implementation week is to do one of two things: either give you some concentrated time to just knock that shit out and so you can get back to work, or the other side of that coin, it's to actually do the work that you were hired to do, because that's important also. So, it is starting at $27 a month. That's what it is right now. You're going to have access to a growing library of information. We're going to have guest speakers, guest experts, where they can come in and have conversations. Likely going to be housing the meat of that within Discord for now, and then growing that into something outside of Discord later when it makes sense to do so. But I love Discord. I'm in there all the time anyway. It's a great platform, and it's super, super user friendly. It combines like the beauty of Slack with the functionality of video and voice chats. So yeah, that's the plan. $27 a month to start. It is going to climb at some point. But you will be grandfathered for a period of time if you buy in early. So I hope that you have a great day. I hope that you figure out who you are. Don't judge people by their covers, because I was thinking about this chat that I just gave and I'm in a sweatshirt. And I'm like, maybe that's the problem I'm having, but it really shouldn't be, because you shouldn't be judging me by the clothes that I'm wearing. We do, but maybe we shouldn't. Just food for thought. Anywho, have a good day. I'll talk to you later. See ya. Bye.